Welcome to the B Circle, where faith meets purpose and you become all God designed you to be. Together, we're unlocking potential and walking boldly in His plan. Let's jump in.
Hello, welcome to the B Circle. We're glad you're joining us today. We're going to dive right in. We got a subject today that is very daunting at times, because when we think about loss, we can get overwhelmed, and because we don't want to lose anything. But sometimes not everyone you lose is a loss. Sometimes things you lose are a greater benefit to stay lost than to ever be found.
Yeah.
So we're going to jump right into this. Tisha, talk to me.
Well, I was just thinking about that, and first it made me evaluate, gosh, how many people have I lost along the way too, you know? And those seasons hurt when you lose people that you think are going to be in your life for forever. And when they're not, I feel like the Lord just had to show me not everyone stays in your life for forever. Some people are seasonal people. And as much as we don't want to wrap our head around it, it's truth. And I'll never forget, I was in college and me and this girl, we were best friends. Like, I'm talking inseparable. And if I was somewhere without her, they would say, "Where is she?" and vice versa. And when we parted ways, I thought my whole world was crumbling. And I didn't think I was ever going to recover, if I'm being honest. But then the Lord had to show me, listen, you had some things to do in that situation, and so did she. Like, y'all need to pray about it, forgive each other, and move on, you know? And I did that. I made things right. But even then, that didn't bring her back, you know? And so I had to be okay with that. But it took me a long time to be okay with, she's not going to be with me for the rest of my life like I thought.
I remember one time when we had first started pastoring our church, some people had left the church, and you take it personal. When you first get started, mentoring people, pastoring people, when they walk away, you can take it personal. The wise lady that goes to our church, she still goes to our church 18 years later. And I never will forget, she called me over, she was doing this. And I went over and sat down, and she just grabbed me. She's got one of those mama bodies. I call it a mama body. She just grabbed me, and I just laid into her chest, and I was crying. And she said, "Listen to me. Reason, season, lifetime. People come into your life for a reason. They come into your life for a season, and some stay for a lifetime. There was a reason why they left. They were just here for a season, and you're going to be okay." And she said, "Put on your big girl panties and stop crying over the loss." And then she said this: people get on the bus and people get off the bus. A bus stops, people get on, and people get off. And she said, the rest of your life, somebody's going to get on and somebody's going to get off. And you got to be okay with that.
True.
How about you, T?
Well, I think about, you got your messy losses. They needed to exit your life.
Yes.
And sometimes we want to cling to those people because we're familiar with them. They've just been around for years, and this is what you know. But they needed to exit your life so you could grow, so you can be launched, so you can do better, because they've been hindering you. They've been adding drama to your life. When they leave, the drama leaves. When they leave, the chaos leaves. So we have to be okay with that. But then I think about the good losses. And like you just kind of alluded to, it's hard sometimes to be okay with that. And I was thinking of the transition we had when our last church had to close down. And that was devastating. It was not closed down, but we had to sell the church. And God spoke to me something in that. One, that church was a growing pad for me. It was a training ground for me.
Pad.
Yes. And so, even though that had to come to an end, there has been some great growth and new doors that has opened in my life. But I would have got familiar with what I was doing there. And wouldn't have grown beyond there. And a lot of times we look at goodbyes as, this is the end of me. This is the end of me. And Lord started dealing with me and said, quit looking at this as the end of you. Look at it, what's next for you.
A new beginning.
It's a new beginning. Something has to come to an end for something new to begin.
Wow, so good. And sometimes when we hang on to something that needs to go, it begins to stagnate us. we can become contaminated.
Yep.
We stop growing
Mm-hmm.
because we're hanging on to something that should be let go of.
Right.
And I think sometimes God shakes our nest. And anything when he's shaking that nest that is in that nest that should not be falls out. We see it as a loss, but God sees it as a gain.
Yes.
Right.
Because we're going to gain momentum by the loss of that thing that was holding us back. Because I think sometimes we don't realize some people are weight.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, and you always tell us, PA, not everybody's going where you're going.
That's right.
They can't.
And that's hard when you love people so much, but I think we've got to look past that and go, but is it worth it to stay where in comfortability to not move forward? You know?
And, I think sometimes it's important too when we say not everybody can go where God's taking us. Does not mean that God's not taking them somewhere.
Right. That's right.
You know
Just
what I'm
not
saying?
where you're going.
Doesn't mean that you're going somewhere that's so much greater than where they're going. It just means that the call of God is taking you to a place that the call of God's not taking them.
Yeah.
Right.
Because we all have different callings,
Right.
different gifting.
Yep.
And I think we got to be careful that when somebody does walk away, we don't view it as they've walked away from God and they've walked away from the will of God. No, they walked away from you.
Right. Their journey's just going a
Their
different way.
journey just took a different
And that's
route.
okay.
It
And
is
it's okay.
It doesn't have to be a negative.
Right.
And I grew up in a home where things like that were always felt like a negative. So when people would walk out of my life or when transition would happen or change would happen, I always thought like it was me and they were disconnecting with me. But then the Lord began to deal with me, especially when I started praying about this. And I really began to think about all the relationships. What was the thing I learned through that loss? Where did it cause me to grow? Who did it cause me to turn to? How did it teach me what it needed to teach me? Because there, and sometimes it gave me independence because I don't know about you guys, but I've been in a place where I leaned on somebody.
Yes.
And I didn't need to lean on them that way. So them being a loss was a good thing for me because I gained independence. I built confidence. I needed to change in some areas. I would have never changed had they stayed.
Absolutely.
Would have never stayed there. So, it's not always a loss.
Not always.
It's not always. And I think sometimes it is. Sometimes, we live in a world where people do mean, hurtful things all the time. And those situations are unfortunate, but they do happen. But not every situation is that.
Not everyone. And I don't know about you guys, but the way I grew up was that because my family were in ministry. And the way I grew up is if somebody walked away, then they became your enemy.
Yes. That's what I was trying to allude to. Thank you for saying it that way, because that's how I grew up too. They were the enemy.
Then they're your enemy.
Yeah.
Now they're our enemy because they don't go to our church anymore. So now they're our enemy. So we grew up then when you would see those people, oh, they don't like us. They left our church. They're our enemy. And it really took me meeting my husband, marrying my husband, and him helping me to change that mindset.
Yeah.
Just because you don't worship where I worship doesn't make you my enemy.
Right.
It just means we have a different style, maybe. Maybe you enjoy a more contemporary style worship where maybe I'm Pentecostal or I'm Word of Faith. And, and all of that is okay.
Right.
But just because somebody walks away doesn't make them your enemy.
Right.
You don't hate them. It doesn't mean you have hate in your heart, but we were taught, oh, that's our enemy now.
And if you talk to them, if it didn't affect you and they walked away from me, but you were my friend,
then you're their enemy.
Enemy too.
I can remember getting reamed. Why are you talking to them? They left our church. They did your dad wrong. They did this. They did that. Okay, but they didn't do it to me.
Right.
That was a hard lesson to learn for my kids.
Yeah.
And I think when certain things have happened, and be real honest, this was probably a massive parent fail because there was things that we didn't guard from them that looking back now, we probably should have. But like if you hurt their parents or came against their parents, then man, you were their enemy. And they had information they probably shouldn't have had, you know, so parent fail for us, you know.
Yeah.
But that's how I grew up. If you were my mom's enemy, then you were my enemy.
Yeah.
You know, if you were, and you know, I just don't think it has to be that way.
It doesn't. And you know who helped me is my brother-in-law, pastors a church in Maitland, Missouri. If you're watching, Bill, kudos to you. But he pastors a church, and he told me one time, he said, in all the years that we've pastored, he said, we have had people leave our church. We've had people say bad words about us and to us, but we never told our kids. He said, our kids right now today honor and respect people who didn't honor and respect us. He said, because we did not badmouth those people to our kids. So our kids still have a relationship with people who walked away. That was like foreign to me.
Yeah, me too.
Because I was like, if you don't like my dad, you don't like me.
Right.
You don't like, if you're talking about my dad, you're talking about me. But I have now learned that's not the case. And when people leave your church, it don't have to be bad.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It don't have to be bad. Why do we think when somebody don't go to our church anymore or don't fellowship with us anymore, then it's just bad?
Right.
It don't have to be bad.
Yeah.
People can leave good and
Right.
people can leave right. And it's up to you as leaders to make sure that you send them away right.
That's right.
Absolutely.
That's right. Yep. That you
know,
bless
because-
them as they go. Yes.
Yeah, because when I was growing up, it was always a big uproar when somebody left the church, a big blow up when somebody left the church.
Big
Why
division.
does it have to be that way? If they can walk, bless them and let them walk. Look at Ruth and Orpah and Naomi. Naomi didn't throw a fit when Orpah said, I'm going to go back.
Yep.
I mean, she actually, how many times did she tell him? Once or twice? Twice, I think twice, 2 or 3 times. Said, you know, you can go back.
Yeah.
You can't go, you know, you don't have to go with me. I don't have sons for you. You can go back. And the first time, oh no, where you go, we're going to go. Orpah was right there. She was going to go. They went on a little bit further and Naomi says it again. The next time Naomi says it, Orpah turns around. She goes back to idol worship, to her idol gods. But nowhere in the word does it say that Naomi said to Ruth, okay, we don't have nothing to do with her anymore, and she's wrong, and she turned against us, and now we curse her. That didn't happen. They just kept going towards the promise of bread.
Yeah.
They just kept walking to the place where they said, bread is back in Bethlehem.
Yeah.
They did not badmouth, talk smack on Orpah. They just went where God was sending them. And that's what I don't understand about when we lose something, why do we have to talk smack on it? Why can't we just bless them?
Yeah.
No matter what they're saying about us, why can't we just say, you know what? More than anything, we want you to be blessed.
Right.
You know, and that is our approach now. Somebody leaves our church, we just want you to be blessed.
Right.
We just want to know that you're going somewhere where you can be fed.
Yeah.
We just want to know that God's leading you. Let us pray with you. Let us bless you. If you need anything, our number will always be available to you.
Right.
But why is it so hard, T, for people to just accept there don't have to be a problem for somebody to walk away?
Right. And I was just about to say that because we assume something's going on and we start whispering and people don't leave the right way anymore.
No,
We don't. We leave with discord and we leave with animosity and we leave with all these things. But to hear that nowadays, I think is very lacking. And it's very rare because we think if someone exit our lives, they are now disloyal to us. Or maybe they were never there for us.
Right.
Or supported us. And that's not always the case. And sometimes we don't know what God has been speaking to them.
We don't.
Or where God is taking them or doing in them. And I tell people all the time, I can't make this about me and them. That's between them and God. It can't always be between me and them. I don't know what God's doing in them, working with them, and maybe showing or telling them. That's going to have to be between them and God.
Right.
You know, and like you said, if there can be peace,
Yes.
I'm going to try to pursue peace the
Pursue
best
it.
that we can.
That's right.
I'm at least try to pursue it.
That's right.
Yeah.
And there are some things that happen when it's wrong. I don't think we have to keep our heart right, but it doesn't mean we stretch our hand back out.
Right.
if we do stretch our hand out, we do it with caution,
Yeah.
knowing that we got bit the last time. So we're going to be careful this time.
That's wisdom.
That's wisdom.
Yeah.
We're going to be careful this time. We're not going to give them our heart, because too quickly sometimes people can walk away and come back, and we just want to hand them back our heart.
Right.
Well, that's bad. That's your bad.
Yeah.
Right. Because you haven't healed, or you haven't realized you haven't realized what happened for what it was.
Yes.
You take things personally.
Yes.
You were saying, when people leave, and even if you're not a pastor and people leave your life, we take that personally without looking at all aspects of it. Even when they do leave wrong or they leave the wrong way.
It's still our job to love them.
Exactly. How we deal with that and how we take it to the Lord and how we process it and how we handle ourselves, we're accountable to God for that.
Right. Because people, listen, we're a circle and we love each other, but we probably have one or two things that we wouldn't be in agreement about.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. But that doesn't make me say, well, you can't be in this circle.
Well, right. Yeah. Because what would it be? I mean, what would be the purpose of the circle?
There'd be no fun if we all were the same.
Right. But there'd be no purpose in what we're doing.
No.
You wouldn't need 4 voices. You would only need one.
Yeah. Because when you're like, if you don't believe like I believe, if you don't think like I think, if you don't dress like I dress, if you don't bow down and worship me, then you just can't be in my group. That's wrong.
That's wrong.
That is wrong.
I had somebody tell us one time, well, this person will be loyal to you because they're loyal to me, not because of anything you've done, but because they're loyal to me. And we took that to heart because we trusted this individual. And when that individual exited our life, we looked back at the ramifications of how we fell into the belief of what was said. And when that person exited our life, the baggage and the hurt that came with that, we didn't handle that right.
Right.
We did not. I mean, I'm pretty for sure that I talked to you plenty of times and was very upset about some things. And probably didn't handle it right, didn't handle my words right, didn't handle my emotions right. And I have reaped some of that.
Yeah. But you got it right.
Well, I did get it right.
You got it right.
I got myself together.
And you know what? It wasn't a matter of fixing it with them. It was a matter of fixing it
with the Lord.
Yeah.
And I just said, God, I can't carry this.
Right. And
I can't carry this. And if I feel it trying to creep in, because occasionally when you think,
and it does have a feeling. Don't be acting like it snuck up on you.
Yeah.
Listen, when you had a wrong heart or wrong motives, you know. I think that's probably my pet peeve when people try to play dumb like they didn't know. Yes, you do. If you have the Holy Spirit, you know when you're not right. You really don't need nobody to tell you.
Right. And if you are telling certain people, it's because you want them to agree with you.
Yeah, just get on my side, Julie. Get on my side.
And that's one of the things that you did not do.
No, we had to stay in the right.
You did not agree with me.
Yeah.
There were, and in that though, it challenged me.
Yeah.
I may not have gotten it right then, but eventually the Lord had to deal with me. I had to let him. He was already dealing with me, but I wasn't letting him deal with me.
There was too much in Julie to let her be bitter. Over
there was bitterness. I'm going to say
over the individual. They weren't worth the bitterness.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? They were not worth the bitterness. There's too much in Julie and Jason for them to be bitter over this person because, that's what I got to say about that.
And that's what people need to hear. There's too much in you.
Too much for any
Too much for you when you're trying to be all that God's called you to be.
Right.
There's too much in you to hold on to that.
That's right. I think about divorce. Back in the day when people got divorced, they became enemies. And so that was 40 years ago. Nowadays, people get divorced and they can remain friends and they can co-parent. But because of the 40-year ago thing, my husband at times could have the attitude, oh, we had a son that went through a divorce. Well, he just needs to, don't talk to her, don't do this. She's now his enemy. And I'm like, hold up.
Right.
She's not his enemy. They couldn't live together. They couldn't live together. That does not make them enemies.
Right.
They have children together. They cannot be enemies. We're done with this. Yeah, we're divorced now, so now I hate you and you can't talk to me and we can't this. That's wrong.
Yeah.
That is wrong. You got married wrong. You didn't handle your marriage right. and you can walk away.
Right.
But if you got kids, you need to get along. You need to find a place of peace for those children.
Right.
That's right.
You're not enemies.
No.
And I feel the same way about when somebody walks out of my life. I had to have a conversation with someone the other day that had made a just choice to walk away from something we were doing. But my talk to them was, you're still a part of us.
Mm-hmm.
We still love you. Don't be a stranger.
Yeah.
Call me. I still need you to come have lunch with me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we need you to be a part of what we're doing. Don't just forget us now,
Mm-hmm.
because they had value
Right.
and there's value in them.
Right.
And we still want to pull that value out of them.
Right. Right.
We don't want to just, well, you're not a part of us anymore, so now we're not going to help you, or we're not going to do this. That's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
That's wrong. You know, I often heard they used to say, and I've said it too, if you can walk away, let them walk. But you got to let them walk in love.
In love.
You
That's
got
the
to
key.
stay in love
Yeah.
when they walk.
Yeah.
It might hurt you to the core, but you got to stay in love. You've got to protect your love walk,
Yeah.
because faith works by love.
True.
And if I can't stay in love with someone who chose to not be with me anymore, my faith is not going to work.
And you know, and you say this often. You're saying this before I became part of the B Circle, but we don't burn bridges.
No.
And sometimes, even, and I said in the beginning of this podcast, sometimes you have those messy relationships, okay? And you need to exit, and they need to exit your life. But leaving the right way, exiting the right way, you just never know when the time may come back again, and they need to hear.
Need you.
They need you. They need to hear your advice, your wisdom, because it had value and it meant something. Even if we're not close right now, even if we haven't talked in 20 years, but because of how you always made me feel, respected me, in this moment, your words carry a lot of weight.
Yes.
Yeah.
And can you help me through this?
Yes.
Can you guide me through this? And they may never speak to me again after that,
Right.
you know? And that's okay.
Yeah.
But God sent you back to me because I had something in me that you needed to hear.
I have watched it, T, where people have left this church that their kids grew up in this church. And when their kids get in trouble, guess where they call? They call here.
Wow.
Because we refused to burn a bridge.
Yeah.
Now, like I said, I'm not going to probably walk to you.
Right.
But I want to leave the entry open if you want to walk to me. I'm not going to deny you.
Right.
I'm not going to shut the door. And because we did that, these kids now, they get in trouble or something happens in their life. First people they call is us. Or they'll show up here at church. They'll be crying. This happened to my mom. This happened to my dad. Da, 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 da. We're a safe place for
Right.
them.
Yeah.
Right.
Because we didn't burn the bridge.
Right.
We didn't be like, nothing to do with you, nothing to do with you. You don't get a car. You don't get this. You don't get that. No, 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 no. No, we're here.
Right.
I didn't move.
Right.
You did.
Right.
I'm still going to be here when you decide if you need to come back across that water. My bridge is still intact and you
Right.
can use it.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that falls under the category of we have to unlearn some of the things we learned. You know,
Yeah.
we have to unlearn pattern of behaviors.
True.
And 40 years ago, you washed your hands at people that walked away.
You sure did.
Now we can wash our hands and say, hey, we're clean. Come if you need, you know.
I can't see how, and I think that I can say this after being a pastor for 21 years. I don't know how you can just take the attitude of, well, you left, I don't want nothing else to do with you.
Yeah.
If that person reached out to you for help.
Right.
But I know people that wouldn't.
Yeah. And I think it's the injury. Again, they haven't healed from some things. When you're carrying bitterness and you're carrying hurts and you're not allowing true forgiveness and healing to come into your life, that's how you can end up being like that.
Exactly.
I
We had a family one time that left for reasons, and that family ended up in a lot of trouble because they did something that we said we wouldn't do that. And but last year, the young man that grew up in our church committed suicide. Well, then that family was calling us. And we could have taken the attitude of, you know what, we're sorry. You know, we're sorry for the loss. You know, I could have said, we told you.
Right.
Yeah.
Could have done
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Could have rolled off my tongue.
Yeah. Yeah.
But instead, I'm on the phone with this heartbroken mother. My husband's sitting beside me, and he's like, we'll pay their airfare. Tell her we'll get her here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the way I was raised would have been, there ain't nothing we can do to help
Sorry,
you.
but sorry.
You know,
You
but my husband was like, no, that's not who we are.
Right.
Mhm.
These people were part of our life.
Oh, wow.
Right.
They were
Yeah.
valuable to us. They were there with us. Now we got to be there for them. It
Right.
doesn't matter if they walked away. Now we got to be there for them.
Yeah.
So, you know, we did everything we could. We paid airfare. We got hotels.
Mhm.
We took care of that family. Now, I haven't heard from that family since then,
Yeah.
but that's okay.
Yeah.
The love of God is far greater
Mhm.
than anything that we could think to do or say. And that's what love will do. When somebody walks away, if you love God and you have faith, then you know that your job is to realize reason, season, lifetime.
Mm.
If it was a reason, ask God to show you the reason.
Yeah.
God, why were they
Teach
in my
us.
life?
Teach
And
us.
you might be surprised to find out they weren't in your life for you to teach them something.
Mhm.
They may have been brought into your life to show you something.
Right.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
You know, I used to hate it when people would say, I'm just here for a season. Because I'd be like, okay, that means you're going to be here for a year and you're going to be gone.
Mhm.
And I used to hate it. I would be like, oh, I hate it. I hate it when people say that. Till the Lord reminded me, if you go to Florida or different places where the weather's warm, they have what they call seasonal workers.
Right.
Yep.
Those seasonal workers come in and they help to get the harvest in.
Right.
Mhm.
And the Lord made me to realize when you have a seasonal worker, they're there to help with the harvest.
Mm.
Don't despise a seasonal person.
So
Let
good.
them do the work. Let them do the
Wow.
labor.
Yeah.
When they're done, they'll go because you're going to always have your lifers.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The lifers are going to be there.
Right. That's good.
But enjoy them for the season that they're there to help you bring in the harvest.
Amen.
So
That's
good.
good
So
stuff.
if somebody's
good.
walked away from you, it's really not a loss. It's really not.
Mm-mm.
Your heart might hurt in the natural.
Right.
You may try to figure out what you did or what you could have done differently.
Mhm.
But really what you need to do is bless them, love them, refuse to talk about them, refuse to burn the bridge,
Right.
trust God and His timing, that there may be a reason in time that they come back across your path. And you know, I often say, if I'm in Walmart and I see somebody that walked away from me, I don't want to have to hide.
Right.
Mhm.
I want to be able
Right. You
to
are-
talk to them, love them. How you doing? My husband's the best at it.
Yes, he
Just
is.
reach out and hug him. Say, how are you doing? It's so good to see you. God bless you. Hope you're doing good. Is God blessing you? Praise God. We're blessed too. Listen, thank you for joining us today. We want you to go be all that God's called you to be, and we'll see you next time right here on the B Circle.
Thanks for watching this week's broadcast of The B Circle, sponsored by Faith Builders House of Miracles. If you would like more information about the B Circle, the ladies of the B Circle, or how you can partner with us, simply visit fbhom.church/the B Circle for more information and ways to connect with us. Remember to be all that God has called you to be. See you next week.